Hello all, welcome to DevOps Tricky channel. In this channel, mainly we are focusing on DevOps related content, both conceptual and scenario based, parallelly discussing about interview questions as well. So, and part of our daily discussions in our channel for DevOps, today I come up with few of the interview based questions in Kubernetes. So in the last videos of Kubernetes, I covered few of the topics like HPA or deployment strategies like this. So if you didn't watch those earlier videos, please check out my channel and do subscribe so that you will be notified while I uploaded new content related to DevOps. So coming to the first question, can you please explain what is namespace in Kubernetes? So, if we are studying in any college, engineering college, hope you guys all are from BTech background only. So, I went to a BTech college scenario for your easy identification and easy grasping the things which I gonna discuss in next couple of minutes. So, if you're studying in any engineering college, then we have departments, right? ECE department, CSE department, IT stream, civil branch, and mechanical branch. What is these are the things? If you're a person of Rahul, if you gonna ask by some of your lecturer that from which department you are, means it's asking for you are dedicatedly reporting to which department, which branch, means that is your namespace, that is for your identification. So similarly like that only in Kubernetes also we have namespace in place. Namespace is a object in Kubernetes. It is used to isolate the resources in Kubernetes cluster. If we have 1,000 students in one college, we are segregating them as isolating the students into their particular departments in the total college. Like that only namespace also is used to isolate the resources in the Kubernetes cluster. They are particularly useful when you are managing multiple environments. In our software, you guys are very much familiar with these words, environment. Like dev we have, testing we have, staging we have, and pre-prod also we have, production also we have, right? So to manage multiple environments like dev, QA, staging, production within a single cluster, we have very much use of this namespace. So how you can say, in my current project we have dev, test, prod environments running inside the same cluster only. For that, to have easy isolation of the resources in the cluster, we have this namespace, so that we can restrict or secure the namespace level access also by using the role based access control. This is about namespace. Simply you can tell like namespace is an object in Kubernetes. So we have a couple of environments running inside the same cluster like dev, test, prod environments. To isolate the resources in Kubernetes cluster, we have namespace in place. Hope you guys understood, right? So what is pod in Kubernetes, and explain pod phases or life cycles in Kubernetes. Pod is the smallest deployable unit in containers in Kubernetes. In Kubernetes, we can't create containers directly, right? So from the Docker, hope you guys are aware on this. We have Docker file. From the Docker file we are creating image. From the image we are creating the containers. So in the Kubernetes directly we can't create the containers. First we need to create pod. Under pod we are creating containers. A pod can contain one or more containers that share the same network storage. So CNI plugin will assign unique IP address to every pod in Kubernetes cluster. We usually run a single container per pod in real time. Means in real time we are only running a single container per pod. But in some cases, like when using a sidecar container for logging purpose, we use multi-container pods. this is about pod. It's a short living object. It is ephemeral in nature. If it's restart, if it's deleted or anything else, a new container will be created. It's upon the main features of Kubernetes like self healing or auto scaling. So CNI plugin will assign unique IP address to every pod in Kubernetes cluster. This is about the pod, but we have life cycles, different pod life cycle phases, that is pending, running, succeeded, failed, unknown. The pending has been accepted by the cluster, but one or more containers haven't started because means pod is still pending, means it's might be the waiting for the scheduler to schedule the pod in that particular node. All containers in pod have been created, at least one container is still running means there is no issue, it's fine. So succeeded, all containers in the pod completed successfully and exited. Exit code 0 typically happens with short lived jobs or batch pods. Failed means we need to check what is the issue, we need to troubleshoot and we need to fix. One or more containers terminated with an error. Unknown means the state of the pod you cannot be determined, usually due to communication issues with the node. In the nodes only the pods will create, right? So if there is no communication between the pod and node, then this is the case of unknown. So like that we have pending, running, succeeded, failed, unknown. So if it is terminated, if it's pending, we need to describe the pod, we need to see the events, we need to see the logs, and we need to fix the issue based on the error. So explain config map and secrets in Kubernetes. What is difference between both these config map and secrets in Kubernetes? Config map and secrets are also both are objects in Kubernetes. Like namespace is also object, right? So config map and secrets also both will use to store the data in key value format only. But config map is specifically for non-sensitive data like configuration files or database URLs or environment variables. Like these type of non-sensitive data will be used in config map if it's related to sensitive information like passwords, auth token, SSH, TLSSL, SSL certificates. These are related to sensitive information, right? So these are we need to store in secret. Config map does not provide encryption. That's why we are storing here non-sensitive data. It doesn't have any encryption. If the data you want to store are confidential, you need to prefer the secrets rather than a config map. As we discussed, secret is used to store the sensitive data as password, API token, certificates and SSH keys. Using a secret means that you don't need to include confidential data in your application code. Secrets and config maps both are in the key value format only. But unlike config map, secrets are base 64 encrypted. Encoded one, base 64 encoded, and access is restricted through RBAC to improve security. Config, that is the drawback config, right? It doesn't provide encryption, but secrets are base 64 encoded one because we have sensitive information, right? So that's why. So what is the difference between replication controller and replica set in Kubernetes? If you guys have knowledge on DevOps or if you're working in project, you do have understanding on replica set, right? If that is like identical pod, if you have one pod, you will get another identical pod. You need to maintain replica set. In the deployment, you will maintain replica set of 3 like this, right? So there is a difference between replication controller and replica set are both used to maintain a stable set of running pods by ensuring specific number of replicas are always available, because I want my application to be available at any time. If it's a peak time, also if it's low time, also based on the replica counts will increase decrease. That my agenda is like my application is to be available at any point of time. So replica set is modern replacement of replication controller. Compared to replication controller, it's like modern replacement. its feature have more things and it is actively used, especially as part of deployments. We are using this replica set, where replication controller is like legacy. RC cannot managed by deployment, whereas replica set is managed by deployments, which provide features like rolling updates and rollbacks. If we use replica set under the deployments in the manifest travel files, it will be have more features like rolling updates and rollbacks. We almost never use replica set directly in real projects. In real projects, we don't use this. Under the deployments only, we are internally creating and managing replica set. So what is HPA? If you need a dedicated video on this horizontal pod autoscaler, I already made one video on this concept. Particularly, it's almost a 10 minutes of video only, just so you can check out to my channel and watch there. Horizontal pod autoscaler means it's mainly depend on the metric server. Metric server will have the observation of utilization of CPU and memory, and in our manifest itself we have threshold of suppose 70%. If that utilization threshold exceeds 70%, then it needs to increase, scale down or scale up the pods. Scale up, scale down have the decision on our one formula is there for the this horizontal pod autoscaler. Means desired pods count equal to current replicas into current metrics by target metrics. Here target metrics is 80% TPU, current metrics you will get. So it will checks the metrics at regular intervals of default every 15 seconds. All the CPU utilization and memory utilizations, all this information have handy by kubelets. In the couplets also there is one item CA admin something, it's there, CA advisor, I guess so. So it will give the all information to kubelets have all this information. Based on this, metrics will get collects resource utilization from kubelet. Based on the metrics, HPA will interact. This is about HPA. Your parts are not scaling up even under high CPU load. As a feature of HPA, if there is a high utilization of resources, either it's a CPU or memory, then it needs to be scale up or scale down, right? So, but here one scenario is coming. Your pods are not scaling up. You set a threshold for 80%. The CPU utilization is 90%, means 90 is greater than 80, then it needs to increase the pods count, right? For suppose if there is 3 pods, based on this condition you need 2 more pods, but it's not working as expected. So what might be the possibility of reasons? That what we are discussing here. Max replicas limit reached. If you mentioned 4 only, then it not goes. If your peaks time, if it's 95%, then still the pod count is 3 to 4, but application is facing some issues, it's not reaching to remaining next 5 or 6 pods count. Means max replicas count might use schedule one less number of count, and HPM is confirmed wrong target values in the scale target ref. These things we discussed yesterday video. Like in the YAML, it will have scale target reference. There it will mention to whom we need to reach out, particularly for which application. What is the target application? What is the utilization? That we all mention in that YAML file. Maybe no resource request defined in deployment YAML file. That is the possibility of reason. Maybe metric server not installed in this Kubernetes cluster. So cluster has insufficient node capacity. If node have sufficient capacity, then also it's a possibility of reason. So if your pods are not scaling up, means that is the might be issue with metric server not installed, or pod replica set which you mentioned is very low, not that limit is also reached. Cluster has insufficient node capacity, and HPA misconfigured. Might be you configure like a different application name in the scale target ref, or it's issue with the selectors, or there is a possibility of chances, right? So what are the limitations of HPA and real-time traffic scenarios? So here one issue is HPA purely based purely based on metric server. Means if it's greater than 80%, then only it will react and scale up, right? It will increase the count of pods, but there is a small lag. That's what the small limitation of HPA. It's not ideal for instant scaling. It doesn't work for it's not react for instant scaling. Also, it does not instantly under sudden spikes if you got heavy workloads. That's the smallest limitation. What happens if metric server is not installed or not working properly? Then HPA don't work. Obviously, if you need pods, you don't get the count of pods correct. So won't get the necessary metrics to make scaling decisions. If I need to scale up or scale down, that decision we don't get from metric server. Obviously, if we don't have metric server installed in our cluster, you will see error like unable to get metrics for resource. It will show this error, so auto scaling will stop functioning. So you don't get increasing of parts or decreasing of parts under the traffic load. What happens if an init container fails? What will be the pod status? So as you know, init containers, that is we are using in projects, means it will wait until the dependency application container comes into picture. So if you have front end application and it we will write one it container that once DB is up, then only this main application will run. So at that time, if init container fails, what is the situation? That is the scenario we are asking here. Then Kubernetes will not proceed to start the main application container until this internet container runs. Then only it will proceed to run the main application containers. The pod remains in init state only. Kubernetes will retry the init container until it succeeds or until restart limit is reached. If suppose we have restart limit of 5 times, then still it not succeeded, then it will fail, right? So until it succeeds, it retry the init container under the restart limit reached. If it keeps failing, status becomes crash loop back off. Crash loop back off, it's a regular real time most people seen error, right, for the parts perspective. So for the crash loop back off, they will go if still init container fails. Once it reaches the restart limit reached, then it will go to the crash loop back of the main application containers don't proceed start. So what are init containers and when do you use them? An init container is a special type of container in a pod that runs before the main application containers start. They are used for initial setup task. One more thing guys, here for init containers, they don't have liveness probe and readiness probe because they are liveness probe, readiness probe we use for long time monitoring of the pods, but init container only we are using at the starting of the main application pod running time, right? So before the main application container starts. So this is the one more thing as well. So for suppose your main application depends on a database, but the DB may not be ready immediately, so you write an init container that runs until this DB is ready. It waits until the DB is up. Only then will the main application container starts. This avoids failure due to race conditions because your application front-end application have dependency on DB. Until this DB is coming up, it will until it got the response, the init container will run. So that we will avoid failures because of any other reasons. How did you use init containers in your project? So in one project, our application needed some dynamic config files stored in an S3 bucket. Then we wrote one init container that download the files to a shared empty directory volume. The main application then read those configs from that value. This allowed our container image to remain clean and reusable when init handle the one-time setup. Means you have some dynamic config files which are stored in S3 bucket. So before you are getting that all the files to your shared empty directory volume, this init container will be worked. So explainables, labels and selectors. So we are all are working in some of the organizations like Google, Microsoft, Amazon, TCS, Wipro, Cognizant, right? So everyone we got one employee ID, right? And if we are working for one client, I have one more client ID as well. What is that? If I have, if my name is Sirisha, then I have, okay, Sirisha employee ID. If you call me with, if suppose my employee is 12345 6, then it obviously redirected to my full name. Like that, these labels and selectors are attached to Kubernetes objects like pod services deployments. They are used to identify and select a Kubernetes cluster. So if anyone search in enterprise with employee ID, then they will get my full name. That is, they are identifying easily if I have my employee ID. If you type only Sirisha, there are 10% or 20% or whole 1000% in one organization, right? So for easy identification to the applications in the cluster, we have these labels and selectors. A selector is used to select resources based on their labels. Based on the labels, selectors will be select the resources. So which Kubernetes controller objects have you used in your project? Everyone are familiar with these words: deployments, replica set, stateful set, daemon set, job, cron job, horizontal pod, autoscaler, right? So deployment, as you guys, replica set, you know, this was the most common controller I used for deploying stateless microservices. For example, in one project we deployed a Node.js API with a deployment and configured rolling updates to ensure zero downtime. Replica set means we are maintaining certain identical pods to have our application available. Stateful set means these are mainly for mm, database for the easy identification. Like pod is ephemeral in nature, right? So every time they will get different names to avoid this situation, because database we have all the our store all our data of end users, right? It's a related application or end users might be. So then the database names to be same every time: mango 0, mango 1, mango 2. If this pod die also, next time whenever the pod is created newly, that time also the name should be same, to ensure the data persisted with the help of persistent volume claims. So diamond set means mainly for infrastructure level workloads. For example, uh, you need to have logs from all the nodes, then this domain set is used. Most of the times in real time projects, we use daemon set for Prometheus node exporter to monitor node level metrics, right? Understand, right? Means one pod per one node, it's mandatory. So cron job means there are a couple of persons working in project. It's only 16/7 support project. If we are not available for rest of the 8 hours, we need to monitor the performance, all the things, right? Then what we do, we schedule one cron job that will execute automatically without any manual intervention, and it will take store database snapshots, or it will take logs, or it will monitor the performance of the pods, whatever we written in that cron job. That is about cron job. Horizontal prod autoscaler, just we discussed a while. It is works mainly based on metrics, based on the CPU utilization, memory utilization. It will decides is it scale down or scale up the pods for the project application availability. So these are the few questions I was prepared from the basic perspective in the Kubernetes. Hope you guys feel this session useful. Going forward, we'll upload more videos on Kubernetes and DevOps. Thank you, everyone.